Today I'm going to teach you how to crimp large cables for electrical systems. So this is a copper lug and a copper cable, and I'm going to teach you how to connect them together. And when these are connected, they are one. They are cold welded. It's not like soldering where you have a chemical joint. This is a mechanical joint. It is one. And if they're crimped correctly, it should look like this. And if you cut it open, it should look like this, where it's all one chunk of copper. Now this week I was experimenting with a new crimper and I created a high resistance connection. It was overheating on my heat camera. And what was strange is these are budget friendly lugs, which are all over Amazon for super cheap. But why were these overheating and not the UL listed lugs? So I went crazy and I tested every variation I could with this crimper and others, and I tested it with my milliohm meter. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I even went to a gold shop and tested if this was real copper, and it was 99.99%. But it wasn't until I cut it open that I actually found out what was going on. As I was sawing through this, all the wires popped out because it wasn't a true termination. And this is what was causing it to overheat. But why would this happen? I used a high quality crimper. So I started measuring everything and I noticed the budget friendly ones had thinner walls and a thinner tongue, and it used less copper overall. And you can see the size difference. This was not large enough and didn't have enough copper to make a true termination with the crimper I was using. To use electric or hydraulic dies, it needs to be the perfect thickness. That way it can smash all the way down and create a true cold weld. Now I could create a low resistance connection with a budget lug by crimping it in this, because I can adjust it and I can make it crimp all the way down. So even though this is thinner, I can still create a low resistance connection, but the current carrying capacity of this will be lower than a copper lug that's thicker. Now the weight difference between these is pretty crazy. The budget friendly one is only 35 grams, and this large cell term UL listed lug is 50 grams. And you'll notice that the tongue is much larger, so that keeps the terminal cooler to whatever it's attached to. And it also has more surface area for a better connection. So even though the budget-friendly one can make a low-resistance connection, if you're carrying lots of current, you want more copper. And I find that the UL-listed ones are best. Something else I noticed is the budget lugs are always extremely shiny. All the UL-listed ones have a different color, including the copper one. And this is because the cheap ones have a weather-resistant coating, and I think it disrupts the termination ability. It's really hard to prove, but it seems like it didn't stick to the wires inside. These ones always seem to stick, even if I do a bad job. And you can really tell on this one how the wires just didn't stick anywhere. Another issue I found is sometimes you can find a oil residue on the budget-friendly ones, but you will never find that inside of the UL listed ones. These ones are always bone dry. And this is very important. You need a dry, clean surface if you want a proper termination. If there's moisture or oil or any other substances, it's going to disrupt that connection. The mating surfaces are crucial. They need to be clean and dry. Now this large cell term that's 50 grams is fantastic if it can fit on your terminal. For example, this Yijing terminal, this is a bad fit. But if your battery terminal looks like this, you can use the largest size lug you can afford. And this might look ridiculous, but this battery can handle 400 to 500 amps. So it's actually perfect. Sometimes terminals have very strange sizes and you have to get a very narrow but high current capacity lug. Also, a lot of large lugs have trouble fitting on small bus bars. So you can either buy a different lug that can fit, or you need a larger bus bar. And for some applications, a 90-degree lug is perfect, especially when space is tight. Now it's time to put this stuff to action. We're gonna add a lug to the end of this cable and attach it to this battery. So first we need two things, the cable size and the bolt that connects it. And this is a 5/16 and this is a 4/0 cable. We can only use this size lug and no other. And this lug is tinned and it's UL listed, so this is ideal. Now this cable is cut flush, but you need to use the proper tool to cut your cable so that you can fit it into the lug properly. Now these are common and work well for smaller cables, but if you're using 4/0, you should use a ratcheting cutter. Next, you want to measure and mark where the insulation needs to be removed, and then use a cable stripper to remove the insulation. Now for this step, you want to wear gloves because the oil on your skin can mess up the termination. Now check to see if all the wire strands are present. If anything is cut or damaged, you need to do it again. Also check to ensure that everything is clean. If it's not, you need to clean it with a wire brush and alcohol. Now you can add the lug to the end of the cable. Now we can insert this into a crimper. You can use a hammer type crimper, a single point crimper, or a hydraulic or electric crimper. And surprisingly, if you cut open a crimp from this hammer crimper, it actually works really well. So it really depends on your budget. These can be as cheap as $20, and an electric crimper can be $10,000. But what matters most is how you use it. If you use the right lug and you use the right tool, you can crimp it and have a complete termination. And personally, I love this manual leverage one. I can do them fast and they work well. But for the video, we're gonna use this. Next, you wanna try to wiggle the crimp to see if it's good. Now the final step is adding heat shrink. And usually it's colored, but I prefer translucent heat shrink so I can actually inspect the joint. And the best stuff is marine grade heat shrink with adhesive. Now the moment of truth, if it fits on the terminal. Be sure to wiggle it to ensure a tight fit. Now we're gonna tighten to the terminal's torque spec. And now we have a proper connection. Now if someone says these steps are overkill, they are incorrect. Because when it comes to electronics, it's either really good or it's not. You can use cheaper tools to make a true termination, but you need to do it right. Making a good termination is more of a skill issue, not a money issue. Unless you buy these cheap lugs, that is not advisable. For example, to get a true termination with a hammer type crimper, you need to practice a few times. You'll notice that when you're hitting it, it will make a different sound when it actually has a termination. At first, it will be a hollow sound and then it will be a thud. So let's give it a shot. So here's a UL listed lug on some 4-aught cable. Now let's test the resistance. So here's a cell term made with my electric crimper, 0.03, and this one's 0.03. Now these crimps are not as pretty, but they do work well. But the best looking ones will be the electric and the hydraulic with dies. And if you're doing a UL crimp, you need the dies to match the lug. They both need to be listed to work together. But if you're only building one system, the cheaper crimpers work fine. It also depends on how you're using it. The max allowable ampacity by NEC for a 90°C rated installation, which this I believe is 105, is only 260 amps. I like to push these cables to 400 to 500 amps. So I'm going to use the largest ampacity lug, which means it's going to be the heaviest. So a cell term with a large tongue is going to be ideal. Now let's talk about the difference in price. For the budget one, these are $2.20. But this massive 50-gram cell term, UL listed in tin, is only $3.50 each. And you get almost 30% more copper. So there is no reason to buy the cheap stuff. It might have a lower price, but you're gonna get less. Now I've mentioned cell term a lot, but Anchor for marine application are fantastic as well. Both of these are UL listed. Now the price of these are nothing compared to this thing. These go for $15 to $18 each, which means if it's a tax-funded federal project, this is what they're using. And this lug is 63 grams of copper, but you can get 50 grams for a fraction of the price. Now when it's this expensive, it will tell you what size die to use with this lug. And those dies are very expensive. Those match up with the $6,000 crimpers. So we're gonna try to crimp it with my cheap electric one and see what the resistance is. And this is a tight fit. I don't know if this is right. The tolerances are insane. Now in these extra long ones, we wanna crimp up here and then down here second. 0.04 to 0.05. But I notice it's not as thick as the cell term, but it's a lot longer, so that's probably why we're getting that result. Now that you know about lugs, let's talk about cable. My favorite cable for off-grid solar power systems is Windy Nation welding cable. It's very easy to build with, and the performance is fantastic. I've used it up to 500 amps many times, and it is absolutely not rated for that. A lot of the other cables are harder to work with, especially the marine stuff, and they usually have a lower temperature rating. For welding cable, 105 degrees Celsius is fantastic. There is higher temp rating insulation out there, but it costs a lot more money, and it's very hard to work with. So yeah, this is my favorite. Now when you get your cables, lugs, and crimpers, you need to test it. Do a full crimp and then cut it in half with a hacksaw. If it looks like one big chunk of copper and there's no wire strands, you have a true termination. And once you have that verification, you can make more crimps. Now, something you should never do is solder these large lugs. I have seen so many videos on YouTube of people doing that. These are designed to be crimped. They're not designed to be soldered. When you have a crimp, it is one piece of metal. And if you want to learn more, look up the Wikipedia page for cold welding. Solder is a dissimilar metal that fills in the spaces between. And the main problem with solder is when it gets really hot, if you're pushing a lot of current, the wire can pull out. If this gets too hot, it's not going anywhere until the whole thing melts. Because this is a mechanical connection. This is what you want in your electrical system. Also, some people will crimp it and then solder it second. That is not advisable. If you want to prevent corrosion, you need to cover it with heat shrink. And this will strengthen it and you can inspect it because it deals with high current. You can always take a PCB and use solder, but not with this. This is different. Something else I want to mention is how much I hate tri-point crimpers. I saw an electrical engineer on YouTube say this is the best thing ever, and it has failed so many times. Instead of crushing it and causing a termination, these things bite too deep, and it will cut through the lug all the way down to the wire. And it takes forever to use because you have to use it with a wrench, and it takes a lot of effort. And it's expensive. I would use a hammer crimp any day over this thing. Now my electric crimper, which I'll have linked down below, was $500. But if you look carefully, there's lots of companies selling the same one for $300. I also noticed the battery and most of the design is very similar to the $6,000 to $10,000 ones. They all look massively manufactured in China. Now this one does not have the UL listed dies, but for most DIY projects, if you can afford it, it works well. Now this thing is only $160, it's lightweight and it works great. This might be my favorite out of all of them. Now even though it's a single point crimp, if you don't have the proper size lug, you can tighten it up and crimp anything. You cannot do that with the electric or hydraulic ones. These have the prettiest crimp around, but it has to be perfect with the lugs that you use. Also, the hydraulic ones can leak oil. So if you're doing this long term, you should have this as a backup. This is my favorite. Now, once you've built your system, you want to check for hotspots. If you didn't do something right, these will get hot when you're pulling a lot of current. And the best way to test this is with a heat camera. But to assess the temperature correctly, you need to cover this joint with heat shrink. And then test the temperature right on the joint. All of them should be the same temperature. When this one was overheating, it was 20 degrees hotter than all the others. I actually found it with my hand, and then I hit it with the heat gun, and I was like, uh-oh, we've got a problem. If you can, you should hit it with a heat camera every 6 months or so to see if hotspots are developing, especially in a marine or hot environment. Also, if you use translucent heat shrink, you can inspect the joint. If the insulation starts to burn, you have a problem. Also keep in mind that these naturally get warm and you want them to breathe. So if you're cramming large cables into a small electrical box, like battery combiner boxes with bus bars, try to make it as big as you can so there's more space to radiate that heat away from the cable. If they're all bunched together and carrying a lot of current, you can get hot spots and things can start to melt. Now, if your system is in a marine environment, you want to use tinned lugs. But I prefer to use these in all environments, even the desert. It's a couple cents more and it offers great protection. Next, it's easy to overdo it with this one. I did that for many years. It offers a true termination, but if you deform the metal too much, it can make it weaker. So set it to the proper setting with a proper rated lug and then do it once. Now, if a joint is overheating, check the terminal. If there's a washer or a bad connection or it's loose, that could be causing it. Now, in my experience, the number one problem in off-grid solar power systems is loose connections, especially over time. So you always want to retorque them and check them. Next, make sure you're crimping with copper, not copper-clad aluminum or aluminum. It should be a copper cable with a copper lug. And to cover why would take a whole nother video. Using dissimilar metals, usually with electrical connections, is a bad idea. I mean, just think about the expansion and contraction rate of aluminum versus copper. Yeah, you do not want to have that type of connection. But for some grid scale projects, it warrants it. Now on Amazon, they sell copper-clad aluminum. It is aluminum wire, but it looks like copper and it's cheaper. Avoid it like the plague. You need oxygen-free 99.99% copper cable only. Now I made these short cables to test the resistance value of different lugs and crimping methods. And there was no real noticeable difference. So if you want to see the nitty-gritty numbers, they're posted on the forum and I'll have them linked down below. And I tested a lot of them just to figure out what was going on with this one. And no matter what I did, I couldn't figure it out until I cut it open. Before you make a lot of them, you need to cut it open and ensure it's a true termination. That's pretty much it for this video. There was a lot to cover, but I hope you guys understand how to crimp large cables. And if you have any technical questions about crimping, post it on the forum. We have guys on there that have been working for decades in this industry and they know everything. And I think crimping is a fundamental skill. It holds our world together electrically. So it's crucial to truly understand this stuff. So I hope you liked the video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.